Hey folks, welcome to another Storytime with Max. It's been a little while. Today I'm going to read The Becoming Silverhands Part 1. We'll see how far I get in the next half hour. Even Part 1 is a goodly sized tale, so this was originally written by Mark and has since been revamped, edited, and developed, as we call it, by me. So this was published in our last newsletter, and our next newsletter will most likely contain Part 2. And I've never read it on stream before, so here we go. The Becoming Silverhands, Part 1. Your early trials have gone well, young one, said the grizzled instructor, wiping the sweat from his face with his glittering silver hand. For the training you have, you're the best I've seen in many decades. Be proud of yourself. The trainee smiled broadly at this hard-won praise and leaned on his sword, sweating. I think I will be ready soon. But not too proud, cautioned the instructor, for an excess of pride leads even the most honored heroes to a terrible destiny. The old teacher lowered himself to the ground and rested his back against the base of an ancient oak, letting out a grateful sigh. This is a good time for another lesson. Recite the tale for me, as you have been taught. The trainee slid his blade into the rack, releasing it regretfully from his two flesh hands. The lad looked more nervous than he had during his first trials, and the teacher had to smile to encourage him. The young man scratched his face and began to declaim the rhythmic lines. I tell you a tale of the old times, a story of the suffering of the Tuatha-Dé-Danann. I tell you a tale of trouble, when the land was dark with swarms of enemies, when the world was burning, and all hope for life seemed lost. I speak now for the land, the trees and hills that make our home, and I remember the days of torment, beset by horrors within and without. I speak now the story of Nuada, he of the first silver hand. In that time, when the greatness of the Tuatha-Dé-Danann dwindled in the upheavals of the first breaking, two mighty warriors arose. One was called Nuada, and the other Bress. They were the bright sons of the Tuatha-Dé-Danann, and their families were closely tied to the throne. Growing up together, they trained often in friendly bouts that always ended with smiles and laughter, neither able to completely defeat the other. Perfectly matched, a powerful bond strengthened between them. Nuada pushed himself ever harder, learning a warrior's way of quenching his emotions in the thrill of battle. His sire had gifted him a magic sword, and Nuada treasured the weapon above all else. He practiced with it from the barest inkling of dawn's light until it became so dark that moonlight reflected off the blade. His obsessive training, coupled with his natural gifts, slowly caused him to start to overtake Bress in strength and skill. Bress began to fall for Nuada's tricks. Try as he might, he could not see Nuada's attacks coming, The imbalance in their skills increased as Bress grew frustrated, spending more and more of his time training alone. He spoke to Nuada less often, and though he made an appearance at Nuada's coronation with a smile, his joy for his friend was hollow. Early one morning, Bress left the lands of the Tuatha to seek his fortune in far-off places. Nuada missed his friend for a while, but he was a warrior and a king above all else. With the kingdom suffering many troubles, his thoughts turned to other matters. Nuada was proud of the Tuatha and he wished to be a good king for them, a great king, to rouse his people with feats of courage that could bring them out of those dark times. But this led him to look outward for a vindication of his greatness, to wish for fame. Filled with an intense longing for greater skill, he relished any opportunity to test his prowess. The young man sought out and challenged the strongest warriors in the known lands. Sometimes he felt guilty for the blood and destruction that accompanied these fights, but he told himself that it would be worth it for his growing legend, which could inspire his people for generations to come. He became Sword Brother, and united his realm as king, which is an epic tale for another time. Even then, Nuada always took the lead in battle, never relinquishing his place at the head of his army. His victories fed his confidence, and as our lands swelled, so too did his glory and his pride. Though he had begun with the desire to increase the greatness of our people, he became more and more focused on increasing his own. Many years passed. Many great events came and went. Late one summer's day, word came to Nuada that a large and mysterious force of warriors was traveling to the shores of the Tuatha Dé Danann. He rushed home, abandoning his responsibilities at the one true city. With only a few days' warning, their numbers might well prove a menace to the beautiful capital city of our people, Tir na Nog. The king pretended to be angry that they should waste his time, but secretly he was glad for the chance to build his legend by defeating a great army. At the hastily gathered high court meeting, Nuada declared that he would meet the enemy in battle himself. The voice of the high court warned Nuada, shaking with age in his white robes. The enemy must have found a deadly ally or weapon, for they wouldn't be so brazen otherwise, great king. Stories have reached our ears of a place with no name, called only the Depths. Strange and powerful creatures lie therein. Scouts say that the enemies of the children of Danu have visited that place and returned strangely empowered. Nuada smiled confidently at the wittering old man. We should be unimpressed by such rumors. I vow to cleanse the depths, once our foes relinquish their lives to my blade. Ever has your king kept his lands clear of abominations and other strange creatures. These depths will be no exception. As the first night frost of the season settled upon their land, an enemy force was spotted far offshore by the realm's scouts. Nuada summoned the Wild Hunt. They assembled in the gray morning light, horses stamping and filling the air with breathless streams of mist. Before the stern faces of his warriors, Nuada rode up and down their ranks on his eager-eyed steed. We shall descend upon them like the wrath of the heavens, he vowed. I shall find their leader and crush him in single combat. Then we shall show them the mercy of our people and send the entire army back to their own lands, well chastened and with a warning. There was no chance for the courts to talk any longer. Nuada wanted none of their deliberation and sage caution to dampen the fire of his troops. Singing and shouting, Nuada and the hunt rode out. The wild hunt of those days was truly something to see. They raced to the coast, the fire-wreathed hooves of their steeds never appearing to touch the ground. After a day and night of hard riding, the warriors of the Tuatha De Danann reached a towering overlook. From there, they could watch the invaders come ashore with the dawn. Helmets, spears, and blades glinted in the golden light as soldiers poured from the boats in wave after wave. Never before had the Tuatha De Danann faced such a force. The hunt saw even Nuada taken aback, surprised and troubled by these numbers. The king's eyes glinted as he shifted into his magic senses and stared at the mass of shifting auras below, the auras of living things. His unease increased when one aura tugged at his sight, an aura different from the rest. He sensed something odd within the camp of invaders. A Tuatha De Danann man was down there, though Nuada couldn't pick him out of the crowd. A traitor. What the king could see was a strange one-eyed statue carried off a tall ship, then set to stand tall in the middle of the invaders' camp. Nuada had heard rumors of this statue. It was called Baelor, and was powerful and evil in some way. Then he spotted Bress, standing next to it, talking to the crowd of milling warriors. His boyhood friend, ashore with the enemy. Nuada's face grew dark with anger. Bress must die for this betrayal. Straightening in his saddle, Nuada called upon the wild hunt. The time has come to charge. Wipe this scum from the face of the realm. As a single warrior, his army raised their weapons and roared in unison. Galloping down the steep slope with the hunt at his back, Nuada called out a challenge. He dismounted with a leap, drawing his famous sword. If there is a leader among you, I dare him to come out and face me. I shall show you the strength of the Tuatha De Danann in single combat. Much to the king's surprise, Bress laughed as he answered the challenge. Striding out of the armored ranks of the enemy, Bress was greatly changed from the youth Nuada had called friend so long ago. His aura, which was once bright and true, now radiated a cold, evil light. In his right hand, Bress bore a black obsidian blade. Its shape shifted in the dawnlight, as though the weapon were alive. At first, Nuada attributed the sword's appearance to the flickering light thrown by the torches of the soldiers all around. Then he realized he could feel the sword's aura, which was dark and malformed. It was alive. Bress, seeing that Nuada had noticed his sword, smiled broadly. He spoke loudly, so that the entirety of the wild hunt would hear. Behold your doom, proud children of Danu. I have gone far into the depths, and I have emerged more powerful than anyone in your little kingdom. My sword is but one of the treasures that I possess, and any of them are more than a match for the pitiful trinkets of the Tuatha De Danann. For a moment he paused, glancing at Nuada's hereditary sword and licking his lips. including your magic blade." And without the customary bow or honorifics to begin the battle, Bress raised his twisted weapon and charged Nuada. Taken aback by Bress' lack of honor or respect, Nuada reacted slowly. He barely managed to block the deadly blow in time and felt the shock of it all through his fingers. However, the years of hard training pushed Nuada to regain his composure. He returned blow for blow, turning the fight back. Slowly, but surely, Nuada got the upper hand on Bress and began to drive him back toward the sea. With each ringing strike, Nuada's confidence grew, for he knew the battle was over before it began. Yet Bress looked as though he did not sense his doom. As each attack thudded home and forced Bress to retreat, he smiled wider and wider. The smile turned to boisterous laughter as Bress felt the foam lap his sandaled feet. There, he stopped his retreat. The duel continued for it seemed like hours. Bress took each blow from Nuada, but yielded no further ground. Nuada could not find any gap in his enemy's defense, despite landing a furious storm of attacks. Bress was totally immovable. His blocks were steady as one of the stout ironwood trees that ringed Tir na Nog, and his counterblows as vicious as midwinter frost. As dawn broke fully and spread its golden light over the sand and rocks, the two warriors still battled ferociously, sending sparks into the froth. Frustrated, Nuada put all his strength into a single terrible blow, trying to push Bress into the oncoming tide, but Bress's block didn't even waver. Carried with the momentum of his attack, Nuada slipped a little. He was finally weakening. As if Bress had been waiting for this signal, he broke into maniacal laughter. "Come on, great king. Try a little harder. You almost got me that time. Surely you're not tired. I'm not even sweating yet." As Bress's taunts bit into his pride, Nuada fought all the more fiercely, but could not find an opening to strike a truly punishing blow. As the sun rose over the towering cliffs, Nuada's fatigue became more evident. Bress took the offensive, driving Nuada back toward the cliffs with powerful attacks that Nuada couldn't quite match any longer. With each swing of the strange sword that landed on his armor, Nuada felt a cold chill at the point of impact. Was that magic or fear? Within moments, Nuada found his back against the stony bluffs. He glanced at the loyal warriors of his wild hunt. Their faces were grim, hardened to battle and loss. They silently watched their leader fight for his life. The grinning soldiers that had come ashore with Bress began to cheer wildly, beating weapons upon shields. "End the match! End the match!" they chanted. His breath heaving, Nuada thought he saw the single eye of the tall statue flicker, as if eager to see death. But it was probably just his fatigue. Desperation set in. His training took over. Nuada felt his wrists flex, his legs tense for one last attempt. For a split second, Nuada prayed that Bress would fall prey to his skill just one more time. However, as Nuada began his attack, Bress's lips curled thin, forming something between a sneer and a smile. This was what he had been waiting for. As Nuada spun, his sword invisible in the bright flash of sunlight, Bress held out his hand where he knew Nuada's sword would connect. The magic weapon cut through Bress's armor, but instead of severing flesh and bone, the blade rang as though it had struck solid stone. On impact, a jolt of bone-chilling pain surged through Nuada's right arm, more intense than the numbing cold. Bress swung his ugly weapon down at Nuada's treasured sword. The king's blade split into several large pieces, each one shimmering with frost. For a moment, Nuada stood stunned, frozen by the enormity of what had happened. A shadow fell across Nuada's face as Bress raised his dark, jagged weapon once more. He roared with victorious bloodlust as he brought it down, severing Nuada's right arm at the elbow. He followed with a vicious kick to the legs, dropping Nuada to his knees. You have lost, O mighty king. You put your lands and your people on the line with your challenge, the lands and people that are now mine to rule. Return to Tir na Nog, and tell our people that their true king has arrived. Bress's spittle struck Nuada's cheek. Despite shock and grave injury, Nuada was not ready to lose. Pushing up with the last of his strength, he tried to butt Bress like an angry bull. But once again, Bress was ready for him, smoothly stepping aside with a mad smile. As Nuada flew past, Bress hacked off the rest of his arm with the impossibly keen blade. Blood and chunks of ice spurted from his shoulder onto the sand. Nuada finally felt the pain as he crashed back to the ground. I can keep this up longer than you can, brother. It seems you want a reminder of who is now king. Bress sneered as he turned to face his troops. Kill them all, but for the cripple. Shocked and saddened at the humiliation of their greatest hero, the Wild Hunt was unprepared for the onslaught. The invaders fell eagerly upon the Tuatha Dé Danann, destroying them with frightening ease. Bress's troops continued their butchery until the last of the Tuatha Dé Danann and all their horses lay dead, bodies scattered piecemeal on the blood-stained sand. Bleeding, weakened, and ashamed, Nuada watched through a haze of pain. He could do nothing. His legend was shattered, stolen along with his people by the traitor, who knew all his moves before he made them, and seemed to have an unnatural energy that drove him relentlessly onward to greater betrayals. Bress ordered his men to collect all the heads of the slain soldiers. He put these bloody trophies in a sack made of human skin. Lighting a torch, Bress set his teeth in the same morbid grin. He grabbed Nuada and thrust the burning brand into the stump at his shoulder. Nuada shook, barely conscious of the pain, as his wound was sealed. When Bress released him, the mutilated former king slumped over, eyes rolling back in his head. Well, we have a few pages left. I think I'm going to save these for next time, and possibly finish off the story in a short story time next week. So I'll finish part 1 next week, probably. Mark my place. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story so far. Next time I'll have a couple pages to read, so I'll finish it off. We'll do a short story time next time. And I don't know where the pen cap went. Anyway, let's see. We have a stream schedule out for the week. So I'm going to wrap this up here, and I'm going to remind you to join us tomorrow. Let's see. We have a tentative stream planned for tomorrow. In the afternoon, Andrew might be doing a programming stream, but it's very tentative because Andrew's a busy guy, and something may very well come up that prevents him from doing it. But here's hoping, because he will be streaming, if he does, from the West Coast office. So he's visiting the folks in Seattle right now and coordinating with them. So keep an eye out for that. If Andrew doesn't make it, I'll just turn on the cameras here in the East Coast office and stream that. So, anywho, thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed. It's always fun to read for you folks. And I will see you later.